This video explores the harsh realities of child labor. In a normal world, the toughest decision faced by 8-year-olds is choosing between playing with friends or finishing homework. Now contrast that with the harsh reality for millions of children globally, who instead of being in classrooms endure grueling 12-hour shifts or more, with scarce breaks and under harsh conditions. These children bear the weight of supporting their families, a responsibility that falls heavily on their tiny, overburdened shoulders. In the sprawling sugarcane fields of Brazil, children as young as 9 trade textbooks for machetes. The sharp blades they wield cut through not only the thick stalks of sugarcane, but also through the possibilities of a carefree childhood and a proper education. These young laborers toil under the relentless sun, facing the risk of serious injuries from the dangerous tools they use. They earn barely enough to feed themselves, let alone save or dream of a future beyond the fields that bind them to a cycle of poverty. Shift your gaze to the cobalt mines of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Here, the sparkle of the blue metal belies a darker truth. Children, some barely 5 years old, crawl through narrow makeshift tunnels that could collapse at any moment, chipping away at rock faces in search of cobalt. The air is thick and dusty, breathing is difficult, and the constant crouching causes severe physical pain and long-term damage to their developing bodies. The cobalt they painstakingly extract powers the very smartphones and electric cars that symbolize progress in other parts of the world. Yet for these children, progress remains a distant dream, obscured by the dust and debris that fills their lungs and blights their future. Venture into the electronics factories in China, where children, often not much older than primary school students, assemble gadgets and devices for long hours under stringent, oppressive conditions. The repetitive tasks lead to chronic back and neck problems, and the poor ventilation exposes them to toxic substances without proper safety measures. The very electronics they assemble underscore a severe contradiction in the narrative of technological advancement and human rights. Further west, in the cocoa farms of Ghana, young hands are equally busy, albeit in a different trade. Here, children are engaged in the harvesting of cocoa pods, a critical ingredient in the global chocolate industry. The work is physically demanding, requiring them to climb trees and use sharp tools to cut down the heavy pods. Despite the sweet end product, their work environment is anything but, with long hours and hazardous tasks that compromise their health and severely hinder their education. Now travel to the bustling garment factories in Bangladesh and India. Behind the glittering fashion storefronts, young girls operate sewing machines, their tiny fingers moving tirelessly for up to 14 hours a day. The noise of the machines is deafening, the air hot and filled with lint, conditions that lead to respiratory problems and impaired hearing. The fabric they stitch might end up on runways and in wardrobes in far-off lands, but the laborers themselves remain invisible, their rights sewn shut by the threads of exploitation. In Cambodia, children are often found in the sweltering heat of brick kilns, stacking heavy bricks that slowly build the infrastructures of cities. Their small faces are veiled by layers of dust and exhaustion, the intense heat causing dehydration and heat stroke, conditions that are overlooked by their employers. Meanwhile, in Indonesia, young hands are busy in tobacco fields, plucking leaves that feed an insatiable global appetite for cigarettes. The nicotine from the leaves absorbs through their skin, leading to green tobacco sickness, which causes severe headaches and vomiting. Each cigarette contains traces of their struggle, unseen in the smoke of leisure and addiction. This isn't just about poverty, this is about violations of basic human rights, where the global demand for cheap goods perpetuates a cycle of abuse and exploitation. The consequences? Stunted growth, compromised health, hindered education, and a perpetuation of poverty that cycles from one generation to the next. But despair is not the only path forward. Change is possible, and it starts with awareness. Organizations worldwide are stepping up, advocating for stricter regulations, enforcing labor laws, and ensuring education is accessible to all children. They need your voice, your support, every product you buy. Every protest and every message you share about the plight of these young workers adds up. It builds pressure, creates change, and can eventually lead to a world where child labor is part of history, not daily headlines. Support these organizations. Advocate for change, help children who don't have a voice by giving them a voice, because every child deserves good health, every child deserves an education, every child deserves a childhood.